Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, as promised in episode 1. Today's topic is narcissistic bosses. We teased you with that episode 1, so here we are. We are diving into the world of narcissism in the workplace. Strap on your seatbelts. This is going to be an exciting one. A few decades ago, you really didn't hear the term narcissist used very often. Ron, I'm sure you can attest to that.
Thanks for the ageism. I can. And Kristin, talking about narcissism, I think it's very important that we lay this quick foundation. I always hear narcissism, sociopaths, psychopaths used interchangeably. So before we get too far, let's make a distinction between those. So a sociopath is basically developed. A lot of people believe a sociopath has had some kind of trauma in their childhood, so they're made. A psychopath is born. There's some of their genetic makeup that's a little different in parts of their brain. Both a sociopath and a psychopath, they don't really have feelings. But here's the interesting part, and I had gotten these mixed up before in my past, but a psychopath can mimic behavior. A psychopath can make you feel special. They can mimic love, make you feel like you're being loved. So that's very interesting. The difference is a sociopath might be able to do that. They just don't care to. They're not about that. Now, both a sociopath and psychopath, they have things they want, and they will do anything to get it, which can lead up to the things that we hear about, such as serial killers. So either one of those personalities could potentially do that. Now, they both have narcissistic behaviors, but again, the psychopath can fool you with those pretend emotions.
Where did Ted Bundy fall in these three categories?
That's a great question. So Ted Bundy, because he was in a relationship, because he was able to lure these college students, these females into his vehicle and so forth, he was immediately diagnosed as psychopath. Now, at his death, just before his death, his mother gives an interview and says the father was overbearing and there were issues with the father. So some psychologists started saying, well, maybe he was a sociopath. So that argument still goes on, but most experts believe he was a psychopath because he was so good at mimicking behavior. And, not long ago, I watched him represent himself in a trial in court, and he exhibited, anger and passion, frustration, all these things, and it was intriguing. But here's the key. Both a sociopath and psychopath will go to their deathbed without remorse. Even when Ted Bundy gave interviews, there was no real remorse. Now, of course, Ted had the ability. He could have faked remorse. He didn't choose to do that. Jeffrey Dahmer, there's a Netflix special.
I watched that. That was really interesting. Yes.
Well, Jeffrey Dahmer, did you notice how matter of fact he would tell the stories?
Yes.
It's amazing, but there's no remorse. Now, let's get over to our topic of the day, narcissist. A narcissist, the difference is, a narcissist has some of the other characteristics, but the difference in a narcissist is it's all about them. Like a sociopath, psychopath, they may want something. What a narcissist wants is adulation. They think they're superior. They believe this. Now, we're talking about a full-blown mental health disorder, a personality disorder. A narcissist does not think the people around them are their equal. They do not compliment other people well. They certainly don't share the credit. They don't take the blame. If something goes wrong in the company, they will go to the ends of the earth to find someone to blame besides themselves. So those are just some general things. And as we were putting this together, Kristin, I listened to a podcast, and they said that probably almost every American president was a narcissist.
Wow. I believe it, though. I almost feel like you have to be at that level.
Yeah, think about it. And think about this. I was thinking, how many times have you ever heard a president step up and say, yeah, I made a mistake. I should have done it this way. They just try to manipulate numbers. Like right now we're hearing the economy's great. Is the economy great? I don't know.
No.
I'm sorry, but yeah, you don't hear that. Now, I do remember John F. Kennedy did take responsibility for the Bay of Pigs, which is very rare if people remember history. But I do think that's true. And then over 70% of CEOs are narcissists. Kristin, why?
Oh, that's to be expected, in my opinion. Like when you are overly confident, and you broke down the 3 categories, and I'm sure that some narcissists are possibly on the spectrum of the sociopath and psychopath.
That's right.
But you're overtly confident, overly confident, sometimes blindly confident, and you're able to convince others that you're capable when some CEOs, they're just really good at convincing their way in the door. And then you have someone who's incompetent, but they will never admit it. And
You're right.
And that's a big problem.
That's a great point. So also, I didn't mention, but a sociopath can have very slight empathy. And it's so slight. It's like a fleeting thought. So a narcissist is similar. A narcissist is aware of their emotion. Let me give you an example. Let's say a narcissist cheats on their spouse. They might have a momentary, like feeling that I shouldn't have done that. It just won't linger. It's going to pass on. And that's unique with narcissism is they do have the ability to feel and have emotions. It's just not very deep and it's not long lasting.
Right, right. And I do want to let everyone know who's listening, you want to hang on to the end of this episode because Ron and I both took a Am I a Narcissist test. And I don't know if we're both going to share our full results. No, I'm just kidding. We are. We're going to dive into the test and then also where we landed on the spectrum because that's how we want to lead. We want to lead from the front and be open and really break down some of the questions that are asked on these tests. And just walk you through it. So you're going to want to hang on for that. It's going to be quite entertaining and potentially eye-opening. But I wanted to share some generalized personality traits that you will see when it comes to a narcissist. Now, this is in or out of the workplace. This is not specific to your work environment. A constant need for admiration, a heightened sense of self-importance, envy towards others, envy towards others doing supposedly better. Oh, okay. So they're showing envy. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Can you imagine, Kristin, a narcissist when they don't win?
Yeah.
When I say they don't feel, they feel that. They definitely feel that.
It's funny when you say not win. I'm constantly analyzing when I read and doing all this research for the podcast. I'm analyzing myself, my husband, my kids. I mean, they're young, but I'm like, okay, wait. My son is a really sore loser. Is he going to be a narcissist? So I can't help. That's the peeping Tom of the mind that I am.
Yeah.
But yes, envy towards others. We've all felt envy before, but what level is the envy on? For a narcissist, it's going to be through the roof. Baseless assumptions that others are envious of their accomplishments, aka haters. You're just a hater, right? But a lot of people think they have haters. They probably don't. An obsession with success, power, looks, wealth. Let's see here. A big personality regardless of who gets trampled on. I mean, it's just, this is in and outside of the workplace. I'm sure a lot of you are nodding your heads like, I know somebody that falls into these. Do you know somebody, Ron?
I do the same thing as you. I evaluate myself because I am confident, I am assertive, and I think it's very important, Kristin, that if people are listening, just because you meet a couple of this, a little of this criteria doesn't mean you're a narcissist.
Right.
Because people who are assertive, not aggressive, but assertive, are world changers. And I get it. There's probably narcissists who have changed the world, but some of them changed the world for the worse. But I evaluate myself when I hear these, and I catch myself going, well, I really feel good about other people. I'd like to see other people succeed. So I feel a little bit guilty like you, especially when I took that exam. I hope I was honest. I found myself arguing with myself.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway.
I know the feeling. Like they say, when you're taking a test, don't think about what someone would want the answer to be. Answer it truthfully. I have to throw this out there because we talked about CEOs and big personalities being narcissists. Oh my gosh, Bill Gates, talk about a narcissist. I just watched a very recent interview with him, and he's taking credit for, really like how many people took the Pfizer vaccine. He's taking credit for everything he did with Microsoft. And the person interviewing him was like, but wait, that's not your technology. But wait, why did you do X? And he basically kept saying, well, I was the one who was able to finance it first. And so when you think of someone who's not able to be honest with themselves, that was wild to watch. I'm like, he's an A+++ narcissist, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could start naming some other names. Well, Kristin,
I'm sure.
One of the things we're excited about is we always have listener submissions. So when we get to that, I want to share a story. I've got it on my phone. I pulled it up.
Yes, we do have a submission. What I'll do first, I wanted to dive into the workplace because obviously we're talking to leaders here, and most of you are working in a leadership position or are striving towards being in a leadership position. So not many people realize that there are two different types of narcissists. You have the grandiose, and then you have the covert. Those two words are pretty obvious, but the covert, as you may imagine, it's a lot more difficult to recognize. They have these personality traits that aren't as over the top, but if you look for them, you'll find them. So I want to give you some specific signs that you are working for or with a narcissist, that they're insensitive to your feelings and needs. They use you, this is interesting, they use you to run errands and take on inappropriate tasks. Inappropriate meaning it doesn't make sense for your role. Wanted to clarify that there. They have you working on pet projects, and all of this is without the compensation and acknowledgement. And I want to put something in there. I remember, this is very early on in my banking career, but I remember having a leader who asked me basically to take on the functions of the next role, the next level. It would have been a promotion. They wanted me to informally be this position without the title and without the pay. And this, I have to tell you, everyone listening, it took me a while to find my voice. I was a yes person for a while, a very short while, but I was when I first got into the banking industry. And I at that moment in time, I was honored to have been asked to take on this next role. But then I was like, wait a minute, I'm getting taken advantage of here. And I put my foot down, as hard as that was for me at that time. I put my foot down and said, if I'm going to do this, I need the title and the pay. And she looked at me, my boss at the time, she looked at me like, good for you. I can still see that look today. And she respected me. She was not an easy person to work for, but she respected me so much more from that point forward. I got the title, I got the pay, and we worked together for another 3 years. And our relationship was very different because I actually put my foot down and stood up for myself. Ron, what are your thoughts on that before I go on with the list here?
I love that. I had the exact same thing happen. I had a female that worked for me. I did something. It was a decision she didn't like, and she came and she knocked on my door. She said, can I talk with you about something? And I could see her courage level, right? I could see her internal voice coming up. And she finally said, I did not think this should have been done this way. I think it should have been done. And I was so proud that I almost ruined the meeting, because this is someone, when she first started, she was an introvert. And by the way, she kept getting promoted. And I really was. And I said, I really appreciate you bringing that to my attention. And I made the adjustment. But I was impressed, because I know that takes some courage sometimes.
Yes.
And you had a good boss if she recognized that. That's
yes.
pretty cool.
Yes, she was good. She did have some personality traits that were difficult to work for. But the fact that she recognized that and then honored that was big. And I have to, piggyback off of what you just said. When someone finds the courage and finds their voice, someone that might be more of a timid or like a B personality where they don't really stand up for themselves often, or they're incredibly humble. Humility is not always a bad thing, right? But you can be to a point where you just get taken advantage of. So I've had an associate just recently where they stood up for themselves and said, basically, I think that if we did something this way, it'd be a lot more productive. And I have so much respect for that person. And I was like, please keep coming to me. I love this. Like, never be afraid to respectfully, as long as they're doing it respectfully in the right setting. I will take feedback and direction and, play around with their ideas all day long.
Well, that's how it has to be. We've been doing that on this podcast. We've been building content and making decisions, and it's really worked well. Kristin tells me what to do. I say yes, and
only when it comes to my picture. Narcissist. No, I'm just kidding.
Every time you text, I want to put a narcissist would say.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. Well, hey, it's funny when you do recognize certain character traits. You're like, oh, interesting. Okay. After you take this test, you can't unsee it. Oh, it's funny though. It's just good to be aware of different things and how they could be perceived. That's why I told you in episode 1, I am constantly working on myself and wanting to just really expose and work through different areas where I can grow. And I know we all can. Okay. Let's see here. Likes to hear themselves talk. Those are the people. Oh my goodness. Have you ever been, I'm sure you have, when you're in a meeting and somebody will just talk and they have nothing of value for the group to say, they just want to hear themselves talk. I feel like I personally had respect from my peers because I didn't talk unless it was a value add to the greater group. Otherwise, I kept my mouth shut and I listened to the instructor. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. Ron, what are your thoughts on that?
That one really strikes a chord. In my trainings, when I'm teaching how to conduct a meeting, I actually talk about when you've got that one person that wants to take over the meeting. I always talk about ways, like I had someone, I was coaching a leader, and I said, you need to they'd tried everything with this person. I said, put a 5-minute limit, and when it's 5 minutes, you cut the person off. And they did. It took a while, but this person finally started reeling it in because it was messing up the meetings, and also it was hurting morale. Now, there is a story, in my leadership course, I tell this story, and I was a party to this situation, and it still makes me nervous to this day. We had this older supervisor, and he would ramble on and on. So he called a 1-hour meeting, and we were supposed to be talking about some new responsibilities that were coming on. And he starts telling, the old days and all these stories. And I mean, it's going on, and we got things to do, and it's already up to an hour. We haven't even gotten to the purpose of the meeting. And out of the blue, this guy that you wouldn't expect it, he literally says, what the hell are you talking about? I thought we had to. It went silent. I even felt, I went like, oh my God, what just happened? The guy froze. This leader, he literally froze. Like he just went, and he's just sitting there frozen. And I guess he was as stunned as we were. And finally he was standing up, by the way, when this happened. He went around, sat down, and he goes, okay, we need to divide up. He never mentioned it. So I'm thinking, okay, he's going to let it pass. The guy's going to get reprimanded or terminated. I went to the guy later. He said it was never mentioned. I'm not recommending that. If you're listening, I'm not recommending that. But what a unique experience. But the guy, it really helped. It helped the manager.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that just reminded me of when Stanley stood up to Michael on The Office. When Stanley, who was relatively quiet, just did his, the minimum, the bare minimum, and Michael was just a fool all the time. And Stanley put his foot down, and Michael's face, he basically looked like he was going to cry. So sometimes people like that. Yeah. I would say Michael is a narcissist. Sometimes people like that, they need to be woken up. Yeah. And it's quite the eye opener, and it's probably very, very shocking to them when they're finally called out on the carpet. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, this one really drives me nuts. All of them do, but this one really does. Doesn't give you credit and takes credit for your achievements. That is the worst. And that type of person, I'm almost saying someone that does that regularly, they're like a psychopath in my book. What are your thoughts on that personality?
I have a slogan that I use when I conduct training. It is take the blame, share the credit. And I also talk about internal and external awareness, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of yourself. We expound on that a lot. But you're right. I've seen leaders, again, they're going to find someone else to blame. That's what a narcissist does.
Right. I want to share a scenario with you, Ron. I honestly want your opinion because I still don't quite understand this. I got feedback from my leader at one point where she said, you reference your team way too much. Like, I give credit to my team. I always talked with, we did this, we put this together. And she told me, you need to start saying I, because you're putting your team before you. And it almost seems as though you haven't done anything yourself. So I'm curious, that was like completely backwards from everything I had ever learned about leadership. And it felt very wrong to give solely myself credit for whatever we had achieved. But what are your honest thoughts on, can someone go too far in recognizing their team too much?
Kristin, there are quality leaders listening right now going, oh no, that person is so wrong. As a matter of fact, in my meetings.
I thought so, but I wanted to know.
In my meetings, I would correct some of our middle managers and said, let's replace the word I with we. We are a team. We do these things. Let's imagine this, Kristin, whatever you're talking about. Let's say your whole team quit. How's I going to do it all, right?
Yeah.
So I absolutely think we should use we as much as possible. So, yeah, just forget about that.
Well, and that same leader used to talk in third person. So that says quite a bit, I'd say. But, okay, let's see here. Breaks rules by taking shortcuts and taking advantage of the system. I'm sure we've all come across someone like that. Sensitive to criticism and blames others for failures. That I feel like goes hand in hand with number 5, which we were just talking about, that takes credit for other people's achievements.
Exactly.
Feels superior and are unable to relate to individuals as equals. That's an interesting one. Have you had a peer who's at the same level as you find it difficult to recognize that you are the same level?
Yeah, and that really happened when I first got promoted. It didn't happen. As you get seasoned, I think there are just some people, and I'm not sure they're narcissists, but there are some people that if you don't have a certain number of years experience, they're not going to respect your opinion. That's what I dealt with. I don't know that I think this person was outdated in their management philosophy. It was command and control. I don't necessarily think they were narcissists, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Negative and toxic, enjoys spreading negativity to gain attention. They feel powerful and in keeping others insecure and off balance. This is that negative cancer that is so important to cut out of the team when you have one. Have you had
Kristin,
a cancer like this?
I have to jump in. I did see one manager that literally took pleasure on dividing staff. And they had 2 people they considered pseudo leaders, and they would play them against each other, and they would make them compete for their affection. Like, these people would work so hard to impress the boss. He would brag on that person. The other pseudo leader would feel, oh my God, I've got to top that. I've got to do something great. And then they would switch their affection over to the other person. It was a vicious cycle. It was toxic, and it was sad to watch. It really was.
Wow. Now that's like next level. Wow. For me.
Yeah.
I've had some very negative people work for me. I even put a sign up at one point where it said, please be responsible for the energy you bring into this space. That could not be more true. I would come in the morning. Occasionally my opener would be there before I was. And I'd say, good morning. Yes, I'm not a morning person, meaning like I don't know. I just feel like once I'm up, I'm in a good mood. Like, I don't understand the people where, oh, don't talk to me until I've had 3 cups of coffee. Like, that's weird to me. But this person was that type of person. So they literally thought that they could just not acknowledge me at all when I would greet them in the morning. And I said, let's try this again. And so I went back, I walked back by, good morning. And then they knew that I expected, even if it was morning, you do not completely just disregard somebody. So that's a very toxic energy. And that's on the low level. What you just talked about, that's wowzers, next level. And it's very unfortunate that someone was subjected to that.
Kristin,
I'm sure there's lots of stories like that.
Let me throw one point in. If you study emotional intelligence, that is a factor controlling your emotions, and that is an emotion to say good morning or whatever. But I had this old Japanese karate instructor. He was so wise, and he would say emotional control is the height of maturity. And of course, at that time, I'm 24 years old, and it's like, yeah, that's cool. It's like we see memes online now and we kind of read them and they pass by. And it wasn't until later that I really started acknowledging and understanding his wisdom. If you can control your emotions, you are set up for success, and you're going to bring everybody with you for sure.
Yes, I really like that. And that's interesting. Right now, I'm going back and forth between putting my son in baseball or in some type of martial arts. And I really like martial arts because of that very reason. My son, as I mentioned earlier, he is a very sore loser. He doesn't do well with losing at all. And how awesome would that be to put him into martial arts where they're really teaching you how to have control over your mind as well as your body. But I think you just answered that question I've been working through.
I have to throw this in case there's other people listening. It does depend on the instructor, because I've seen some of the weekend warriors who brag on themselves. I've seen a lot of narcissism in martial arts. I was in it for years. I competed across the United States. And so just do your homework on the instructor.
Yes, that's a good point there. Yeah, that could happen almost anywhere, I feel like.
Yeah.
Look for those reviews. Those do have weight. You mentioned a story earlier, and I know you received that submission. Can you share that with us?
Yes, and we keep these submissions confidential, but I'll use the first name on this one with permission. This is from Dwayne, and it said, I once got a new boss after being with a company for 8 years and having a lot of success. During his very first in-person meeting with the room full of us managers, he did a presentation, and toward the end, he let us know that he had been deeply hurt by his former employer. So now he had trust issues. He then made it very clear that if at any time he felt like one of us had crossed him for any reason, that person would be dead to him. Needless to say, it was a really awkward moment. Within no time, talented managers who had been with the company for years began leaving left and right, including myself. He was a terrible boss, and he ended with LOL. Thank you, Dwayne, for that story.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Wow, dead to me.
Oh, my
That's some
goodness.
strong words.
That's a new one for me in a workplace. That sounds like my husband loves mafia movies. I'm like, are we watching the mafia? You're dead to me. Or the Real Housewives of Jersey. Goodness gracious. So that's in a workplace, in a meeting?
Yes, that was the submission. I had, you mentioned mafia. I had a branch chief. We had a great relationship, but we had to be, when we had the executives come to the academy for a tour, we would have our team do presentations for them, like what's going on at the academy, training, updates. So anyway, we were on a very strict time schedule. Now, unfortunately, our listeners, I'll try to describe this if you're not watching on Rumble or YouTube, but I was in the back of the room. She was running over. So I did this. I gave the signal, like, it's time to cut it off. To this day, if she told this story, if she was a guest on this podcast, she says I did this with my thumb across the throat. And I'm like, oh my God, no, I didn't. I really didn't. I said, that's a whole different meaning, I think. I think that's more of a cartel sign or a mafia sign.
Yeah,
but all I did was wave my hand.
I'm gonna
like,
slit your throat.
Cut it off, not slit your throat. But anyway.
Oh my goodness. I love it. That's a good one there. All right. So we've talked about what it might look like if you are working for or with a narcissist, but I'm going to provide some ways to avoid working for one. This is specific to what character traits to look for when you're interviewing with a potential narcissist. So you're interviewing for a job, and for anyone listening, when you're being interviewed by somebody, you should be interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. there are plenty of jobs out there. So you can be picky. And if any of these pop up, think twice. So this is a great article that I found. And it's written by a PhD, Lori Holman. So these are red flags that indicate you're interviewing with the narcissist. The first one is they don't share anything negative about the company or the role. And I have to say they're one of my favorite leaders. I'm going to give a shout out to Kim, one of my favorite leaders within the bank. She made sure to tell me in my interview, she laid out the good, the bad, and the ugly of the company and of the role and of her leadership style. And I appreciated the transparency so much because I was able to go in eyes wide open. That meant a lot to me and went very far. Have you ever had a leader do that during an interview, Ron?
I'm not sure, but I have a shameless plug. In my online interview course, one of the questions I always say, at the end, they'll say, do you have any questions? A great question to ask is, what do you think would be my biggest challenge here? Or the person before me, what was their biggest challenge with this position? That kind of pins people down. Sometimes people, if they're a little anxious, they'll blurt out an honest answer. And I think that's a great way to find out a little more about, the position.
Yes. And I've actually had, when I was interviewing people, I've had a few people ask me those questions. And I remember thinking, good for you, right?
Agreed.
To actually ask some questions. All right. Second one is they are avoidant to your questions about their management approach. I just covered that Kim was very straightforward about her straightforward management approach. What do you think about that, Ron? Is that a red flag to you when somebody's not willing to answer questions on how they lead?
Oh, absolutely. If you say, what's your leadership style? And they play that off, they're either ignorant or borderline, or they are a narcissist, one of the three.
Right. Third one, they are distracted and not giving you undivided attention. Just basically, that's a complete disregard for you as an individual. I'm going to just be very honest, though. I've been a few minutes into an interview before and known that I was not hiring that person. And I mentally disengaged. I don't think I physically disengaged, but it made me think when I was reading through this, I was like, oh, shoot, that wasn't cool. But have you experienced that?
Yes, I unfortunately have a story. I'd just gotten promoted. I had a manager in my office. I was waiting on an important text. I looked at my phone and she literally said, I would appreciate it if you wouldn't look at it. If you wouldn't look at your phone when we're talking. There was nothing I could say. I said, I apologize. And I'd never looked at it again. I can assure you.
See, sometimes we need that. And I appreciate you sharing that because that is vulnerability right there. That's why Ron's a good leader. Those are stunners, I feel like, and you don't do it again when someone stuns you.
It's true.
Now, did you feel like you were able to communicate going forward after that interaction?
I did.
Normally?
I was new, and I had 5 section chiefs. When I met with them, I said, I want to know when we meet the way you communicate. How do you prefer to be communicated with? What can I do? I use my magic words. Are you getting what you need from me? And so I'd kind of given a green light for that in the meetings, and she spoke up, and we did have a great relationship.
All right. That's awesome. I think we need that transparency and those bold folks to respectfully call us out as leaders. All right, where did I leave off here? Let's see here. Okay, this is they're making inappropriate comments about other employees. What I will say to that is don't for a second think that won't be you the minute the door closes and you're not in that room.
Exactly.
If that is happening with you in the room as while you're interviewing, wow, I can't even imagine what's going on behind closed doors. All right, number 5. You have heard poor feedback or no feedback from others. This is generally when it's going to be like an internal. You already work for the company and you're interviewing with someone internally. Either poor or no feedback from others who have worked for this person who is interviewing you.
Kristin,
okay,
that also means it means they're scared.
Go ahead.
They may be scared, of course.
Oh, well, I have received advice. I was going to interview for a position, and my current leader, who I respected very much, had warned me that the person I was interviewing with was very difficult to work for, and that's what they had heard from multiple sources. And in my mind, and I've done a lot of growing, this is like quite a ways, 10 years ago or so. But in my mind, I was like, I'm tough. I can work for anyone and make it successful. I've done that before with hires. They didn't work out for that person. They'll love working with me. Right. And so you talk yourself out of these red flags. These red flags are waving and you're like, no, I'm tough. I got this. I'm strong. It should have been advice that I had listened to, because it might have been great for a few months and then everything was really showing through. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're giving great dating advice right now, if anyone's listening. No, our own ego, I felt the same way. I felt like I knew that previous employer, they'll do better with me. And there are times that does happen. There's just a personality conflict. They come on with you or maybe someone else, whatever, and they do well. That does happen. But usually it's deeper than that. And the same problems, people bring the baggage with them in most instances. So, yeah, right. I've experienced both sides of that.
All right. Story time. I want to share something with you, Ron, and I want your honest feedback on if you think this person is a narcissist, a psychopath, or a sociopath. It's a very quick, short story, but I had someone work for me, and there were a lot of ailments, let's just say, and there was always something. So I remember at one point I had said something about my acid reflux. True story. I have acid reflux. And then she at the time.
All right, go ahead. I just didn't see that coming. Go ahead.
I know. It's like now everyone knows, but it's a real thing. A lot of people deal with it. So I was like, yeah, oh my gosh, my acid reflux. She's like, oh, you have that? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I have it too, but I have acid reflux disease. And I'm like, oh, that's like the same thing, but okay. She's like, no, it's not. It's different. But everything was like that, right? It was like amplified and dramatic. And now that I'm doing this diving into different personality types, I'm like, I think she was on the spectrum of one of these concerns. Not sure which one though.
Well, was she a hypochondriac? Was it always sickness, or was this anything?
No, it was anything. It was like hair on fire when it came to anything company. Yeah,
I'm not sure it's any of the three we're discussing, but that's certainly a personality disorder. But it could be, I don't want to put her in a narcissist category, but some people are so starved for attention. But I think she had a different type of mental health disorder than the three that we've talked about.
I remember. So, okay, I want you to take over on this, but I did not know what it was called at the time. I ended up gray rocking her though, because when these things were brought to my attention and it was always hair on fire, the world's ending, blah, that drove me crazy. And so I would do the complete opposite, and I just wouldn't even acknowledge really any of her behaviors. Gray rocking.
I love it.
This is your forte. Break it down.
Okay. Well, let's get a couple. So we always say with our podcast that we're solution minded, and we do want to offer some solution. There's no guarantees, but the first two solutions is documentation. Now, there's two different reasons. The first thing you want to do is document that narcissistic boss. There are certain things you may not think it's important at the moment, and I know you're busy, but you need to keep a private journal and document the date, the time, and be as specific as you possibly can. Because one day, some of these narcissists finally get themselves in huge trouble. They go way over the line, and those notes may come in handy. Also, you may be the subject of termination or personnel action, and you need those notes. And if you go into a hearing and you pull out a journal that's got dates, times, and specifics, they tends to be much more believable than you just saying, well, back last year, that's not very believable. So protect yourself, keep those notes. The other thing is similar that we've done before is document your own work. You want to be able to justify your position. Again, I know you're busy, but try to make some notes. When you finish a major project, be sure that it can be reviewed months later, that someone will know that you completed that assignment or those projects. The other one is a support system. The sad part about working for these type of people is sometimes it just slowly erodes you, and you begin, it affects your sleep, your diet, your relationships, and it's this is slow spiral, and the toxicity will grow. It's like a cancer. So you have to have a support system. Now, it needs to be someone you trust, but a support system is vital when you're working with someone like this, to just vent or just share your frustrations or your hurt or whatever. It's always great to have someone in your life that you can vent to, and maybe it's more than one, but a support system is a must. Now we're going to get to Kristin's favorite, gray rocking.
Yeah.
Gray rocking, here's what you have to understand. Narcissist people feed off of adulation. They want to be the center of attention. They want your undivided attention. They want your compliments. So when you gray rock, what you're doing is disarming this person. It's psychological disarmament. And so, Kristin, let's do something. And you're going to gray rock me, okay?
Okay.
So basically, if you're listening, we'll talk through as much of this. I'll kind of show you what Kristin's doing, or I'll tell you what Kristin's doing. But so, Kristin, let's say you work for me, as hard as it is to imagine. So, Kristin, I bought this new shirt, which is actually true. I did buy this new shirt, but
it looks very nice.
This is what gray rocking is. So let's say that I'm now. Keep in mind, we're not talking about the first meeting. We're talking about Kristin knows that I'm a narcissist. She listened to this great podcast. She knows what a narcissist is. So I'm constantly trying to get her attention, trying to get those compliments. So she knows what she's dealing with. I want to be very clear on that. So I walk into her office and I'm like pulling on the shirt, dusting off my shoulders, and I'm fishing. It's the body language. I'm wanting that compliment. How are you going to handle that, Kristin?
If I'm gray rocking you, which completely goes against my nature, but I would completely ignore your body language.
So how could you do that? What body language would you show if I'm doing this?
I would keep my attention focused on your eyes, because you're clearly, everything that you're showing is shoulders down, the way you're moving around trying to get some compliment about your shirt. So I'm going to basically look you right in the eye and not even give you anything below the neck.
I like that. Here's another technique. You can just look at someone, go back to work and say, can I help you? And you're totally ignoring, you're working. Okay. It's hard for me to say, I'm upset with her. She was doing her work and she should have been looking at me. So either way, both of those are gray rocking. So then I go, Kristin, you like my shirt? How could you gray rock that?
This is really hard for me, because I want to say that. I want to compliment right then.
She wants to compliment me, folks.
Nice. I want to compliment you. I have a gift of affirmation. I can't help it. But I would say, oh, great. Yeah.
Oh,
something like that.
That
something
was
passive.
Perfect. What I want you to say is it accents my eyes. You can see, look, you can see my physique like that. That's what narcissist, if you want to feed a narcissist, that's what you do. Oh my God, I can see your pecs through that shirt. So anyway, can you see my pecs through the shirt? I'm kidding.
I cannot. Yeah.
Hey, we're finished, Kristin. We're finished with the gray rocking. So you get the picture. If you are working with someone, it's so easy because you want to be in their good graces, but they don't really respect you for those compliments. They really don't. All you're doing is you're solidifying that you're the subordinate and, they're the alpha. And that's all you do. You think it helps you in the long run. It doesn't. You're way better off to gray rock. It's subliminally done, but you're going to end up in a better position. And then lastly, this is what you did, Kristin. You stand up for yourself. Sometimes what a narcissistic person needs, it's like the bully on the playground. It's you standing up to them and saying, no, that's not part of my job description. You've done this in the past, and if we need to go higher up, we can do that, or whatever. I'm just giving you an example, but sometimes you stand up to that bully, and unfortunately, they're going to move to someone else, but they're probably going to, they might leave you alone. We make no guarantees, but those are some things, major documentation, get that support system, gray rock, and stand up for yourself.
Right, right. Because if they see you as weak, I would say someone like that, they see everyone as weak, or most people as weak. And they're very domineering, let's say, in this situation.
Yeah.
And if you show them that you're not weak by standing up for yourself, it takes them back.
It does.
And then a lot of times they'll be like, all right, I know. And they have this, not that you want their respect per se, but you've gained it in some way, and they do move on to their next victim.
You know what I noticed as Academy Director, and I'm not going to say this is necessarily narcissistic, but we had officers from all over the United States, and it was really unique because the alphas, whether male or female, the alpha personality would either want to do battle, they didn't like the other alpha, or they would be best friends. And it was really interesting. And usually it's best friends. I would see someone from Alabama, good Southern drawl, someone from Bronx, New York. They have nothing in common, but they are exactly the same. They had the exact personality, just different mannerisms, different, upbringing. But I thought it was so interesting to watch who would team up and be friends. And there's people who still meet in Charleston, South Carolina. They will do an annual meeting because they got so close at the academy, or maybe meet some other places. But some have told me they come to the city because of those relationships. But I think it's a very unique dynamic. And you're right. Sometimes a narcissist will respect another narcissist, or at least someone who stands up for themselves.
Right. They're in good company with each other.
Well, that's the end of the program.
Well, no, I'm like, wait, I have one more. I wanted to share.
I'm talking about the quiz.
The gray rocking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. Oh, yeah. I know. You're putting off. I'm fine. I'm ready to dive into that quiz. But I want to share with the gray rocking. I believe that works not only with people that are on the narcissist spectrum, but I had an employee that always wanted me. They would act like they were sick. They didn't want to say, I need to go home because I'm not feeling well. They wanted to be sent home because they felt bad, right? Because it wasn't that they were actually sick. So I would, they'd be talking to me and like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm all right, And so I just completely was like, oh, good. Okay, cool. Good to see you today. Yada, yada. And I just bounced along, just like I didn't even acknowledge the fact that they were putting forth this, I'm so sick, you need to send me home voice, and carrying themselves, just dragging around. And so once I would gray rock that, again, I didn't know what that term was back then. I was just doing it because it was effective. You kind of just shine it on and they stop. They stop. Yeah. It stops that. So this person, and I've used it on multiple, they didn't pretend like they were sick trying to be sent home anymore because it didn't work on me. So that is effective, very effective. It
really is. And yeah, you've been gray rocking for years. Sometimes
I have.
sometimes it's the superhero complex. People want you to know I'm working through all this pain and this misery, but I'm here. I've had people do that. Kristin, the reason I tried to end the program is you and I made a commitment to go through this narcissistic exam, and I'm getting nervous.
Yes.
So I think I should ask you like 4 questions. You ask me 1.
Okay. I have 2 for you.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, not too bad, but you know what? I will go first. So go ahead.
Well, this is the penpsychometric.org. It's a lot of fun if you want to take it. We'll plug that in the show notes. It's really cool, but there were a few questions that I wanted to argue, at least with whoever developed it.
Right, me too.
But here's an example. All right, Kristin, this one's to you. Let's use A and B since people are listening. I have a natural talent for influencing people. B, I am not good at influencing people.
A.
Wow. A narcissist would say.
I mean, hey.
Do you want to explain that?
I mean, yeah. Hey, I just want to tell everyone. So the scoring system, it's between 1 and 40, right? So there's a 40-point system. And so I'm just going to be very transparent. I scored a 21 out of 40. So I'm right in the middle of the narcissist scale. Again, this is one test. I don't put too much into, I'm not concerned. I just say, okay, interesting. Let me unpack that a little bit, right? But okay, so with that, I've since I was young, people just seem to naturally follow my lead on certain things. Even if it was me being the first girl in my middle school to wear male airwalk shoes to school, I did it. My mom was like, those are boys' shoes. I'm like, but I like them. And so what do you know? The next couple weeks, there's like 10 girls that went and bought the male airwalk. So I just have that natural ability. I think it's because I just do it with confidence. And so I scored that one pretty honestly.
I want to accentuate this point. Kristin,
it is what it is.
You can feel better. We in episode 1, if you want to go back and listen, we talked about how we ended up doing a podcast. Kristin's in Portland, Oregon, near Portland, and I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. I was on her show, and Kristin knows this. She was not my first choice because I hadn't met her. So I went on the show. I loved the confidence. I loved, your own screen presence, all these things. And I'd already asked someone. And this person was on the fence and literally basically told me no. They were still kind of on the fence. So I jump at this and I get in touch with Kristin. We talked it through. She said yes. And then the other person came back and wanted to do it, but I gray rocked her. No, I'm kidding. I basically said, no, it's already a done deal. So I'm glad that worked out. I saw that talent. I saw that assertiveness and influence that you had. All right. I've got 5 more for you.
Oh my gosh, the number's gone up.
No, go ahead. I'll take
all right,
one.
I'll throw one in. I'll lob one in here to you.
I dread this.
Okay. So A and B. All right. So A, modesty doesn't become me. B, I am a modest person.
Oh, that's the most painful one. I struggled with that.
It is.
I'm getting more modest as I get older. I'm gonna do like you. I'm gonna take it on the chin. Modesty doesn't become me. I can handle a compliment. I'm not gonna say I'm starved for it, but when it says I'm essentially a modest person, God, Kristin, I struggled with that one. I think I'm kind of modest.
You're like, is there an A point B?
Yeah, I'm trying to throw in disclaimers. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, this is to you.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going to skip around because we don't need to do all these. Okay. When people compliment me, I sometimes get embarrassed. B, I know that I'm good because everyone keeps telling me so.
Oh, that's A. Actually, it took me a long time to be confident when accepting, to be confident when accepting a compliment. I used to, have you ever done the thing where you're like, someone compliments you on your shirt and you're like, oh yeah, I've had this for years. That was me. I used to always do that. I would I don't know if it's like downgrading.
You gray rocked yourself.
I did. So, and I did that for decades. And so I would say in the last 10 years, I have learned to just, oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Something like that. So yeah, that one's pretty straightforward also.
I used to always be able to tell, and a lot of times I could tell if people were there is shyness, but some people have trauma. And I'm giving an example here of if I would compliment the opposite sex, they would drop their head and say, oh, it's not that good or whatever. Then there's either, of course, shyness, but there can be some trauma behind that at times.
Right.
You got one for me?
Yeah, let's do this. Okay. A and B. So A, the thought of ruling the world frightens the hell out of me. Or B, if I ruled the world, it would be a better place.
You picked the worst two for me.
Intentional, potentially.
Okay. God, I wish it didn't say the world. Why couldn't it just say like my homeowners association or something?
I know. It sounds very villainish.
I know it does.
The world.
Even though I think the world is really screwed up and I'm concerned, that would still scare the hell out of me. To rule the whole world.
That's what I answered too.
I would take, I would take a good regional leadership position if anyone's hiring out there. Give me a ring. Just kidding.
Dunder Mifflin.
Yeah. All right, one more, Kristin, and we need to wrap this up.
And then you have to share your score. FYI.
Oh, that's right. You jumped in and shared yours.
I did. I went.
Mine was 41. Okay.
Nice.
I like this question. It frustrated me. Oh, God, there's two I want to ask you. I will be a success.
Go for it.
I am not concerned about success. A, I will be a
A.
success. B, I'm not concerned about success.
A.
Yeah, that one's a little easier. This is the one that this one.
I'll elaborate on
this
that, though.
one. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I think that's important. So I just believe in myself, and I also believe in success. The definition of success is different for everybody. I also homeschool my kids, so I could consider myself a success in my marriage, in parenting, in homeschooling, in this podcast, right? So I think it's important. It's not who has the largest bank account, who has the nicest cars, who has the most square footage on their home. I know I will be successful because I put the work in and the energy forward.
I love that. And I've told Kristin this offline. She's a force. Like, she's a force to be reckoned with. Her show is amazing. Social media influencer. Hard to keep up with. Pray for me, listeners.
Well, thank you.
Last one. I am no better or worse than most people. I think I'm a special person.
A. I know that's going to sound like, I don't know, like it's maybe not the truth, but I feel A. And this is going to sound a little interesting to some people, but I will be driving in my car, comfortable, and it's always raining here, right? It's raining out, and I see people standing at the bus stop in the rain. And I think to myself, I literally say this to myself, I am no better than them, and I wish good things for them, right? Because I see someone who's just being poured on, and I'm in my car. I don't put my nose up like I'm better than them. I immediately am like, gosh, you know what? I am no better than them. I don't know why I do that, but I do. And I think that's important.
I think growing up in the coal fields of Virginia, Appalachia as we call it, it did produce a gratitude in me. I have always been very grateful because I really saw poverty. And then when I became a state probation officer, I had an offender on supervision, did not have a floor in his house. It was just dirt. And a lot of stories from that. But I think we can conclude this episode. I have enjoyed this so much, Kristin. I'm telling you, this has been such a great discussion. I've loved it. So how can people follow us and help us on this journey?
Yeah, we are more places now than we were last week. So we now have an active, let's see here, YouTube channel. We have Rumble up and running. The podcasts are out. You can get them wherever you get your podcasts. So you can go find us there. We have a Facebook group that Ron started, and I'm in there as an admin also, that is very active. We've had a lot of activity and chats and conversations in the Facebook group. And also on LinkedIn, that group, I would love for you to join. That is a very interesting place, and it's more formalized, but it's a great place to also have a group where we can have discussions, and you could submit stories that we can use anonymously if you'd like, on the podcast. And obviously all social media channels, we're everywhere. So the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is how you will find us.
Yeah. And one of the greatest things is I've had people saying, I shared this with my supervisor. I shared this with a friend. And Chris and I didn't tell you this, but literally 5 minutes before we started working with our technology, an ATF agent friend, Dean, literally texted me and said, hey, I've been listening to your podcast. Well, I'll just read it. Hey, buddy, really enjoying listening to your podcast while I'm on the road. So things like that mean a lot. We've just said we are grateful. Yes. We're no better than anyone else, but we did start on this journey with a desire to help leaders, and we've picked on supervisors, so we'll make up for that soon. But please tell someone about the podcast or the YouTube, Rumble, and come on this journey with us.
Yes, please. We enjoy that very much. We want those submissions, and we want that camaraderie.
Yep. And we want to help you be the leader you're meant to be.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.